Okay, hello. So today we're kind of running out of packs that we haven't done for an Overexplain. So we've basically got Crystal, and I believe Arcane, Flame, and Witch left. I think we've done all the others. So let's head in. I'm going to try to do one of these three. Well, one of these four, I guess. I guess we've also got Frosty. So yeah, we'll leave these like this, completely value oriented. There's no direction that they're pulling us in. They're all just generic things that give you good value um, for just existing in a sense. Like Tempo is probably the best perk in the game just because of the amount of gold it gets you to start with, because it's technically plus 25 gold. And then you've got Gathering, which just gives you a couple of rerolls, which makes life a little bit easier when you're doing these over-explains because you get more chances to be able to just like roll into the things you need. Then you got Treasure, which is at level 5. We get a free Epic Chest, which is just great value since if we don't even want the item, we could just sell it. But at the same time, a level 5 Epic Chest is very strong because usually you'll be like at level 5 on like say day 6 or day 5. Lucky is just plus 15G at the start because you get a 15 gold item, and then you get a little bit of luck, which is great for rolling into like lucky shops for items you own, etc. So we've got Tempo, which is incredible value. So with Tempo, the idea is I want to start with a Novice Blade, and then I want to roll for other 15 costs. Okay, so we got a big burn combo here, so we're actually going to do this instead. This is a really good start for burn. Unless someone has like a bunch of 15 costs and it's going to blow you up or really high burst, this is likely to win a lot of rounds. Because the struggle with burn is getting the burn to stick to the tower. The moment the burn starts sticking to the tower and can ramp up, you're pretty much going to win. So having the Flare and Molten combo early is very nice, because now we can focus a little bit on leveling. But early game, basically, you want to be trying to find your Molten Bow as fast as possible for burn. It is kind of the best burn item for ranked, for just rushing people down, as it comes with multicast. If you can't find this, then unironically, Turnbound Ring is a great supplement for Molten Bow. It's just a little bit slower. So we're going to take our Healing Touch, we're going to level up. Then we have a Staff of Zeus here, which is very nice. We want to pick this up. It basically just increases, it's like a multiplier for your DPS of burn. Not necessarily increasing the amount of burn you place, but generally is going to be making this burn damage effect happen sooner, which is very important for just rushing down enemies. Cool, and then we're going to take the Cloud Vials here. So Weapon Warrior is fine. Like, usually, I skip this a lot, so I should probably explain. Weapon loot is very, very good if you have 15 costs on your board. If you have a bunch of 15 costs or moon knives on your board, weapon loot is very, very good because it could combine them for you and give you a chest since we're level 3. But I much prefer Cloud Vials with the Traveler stock because it gives you a lot more control and freedom over what you're doing with them. So, for example, here we have 12 of them. I'm just going to buy this Zeus. We can't do anything else, like we can't level, but I can still reroll and potentially find myself another Molten Bow. I can potentially find a Fire Orb. I could find like a bunch of stuff that would be very nice for us right now. So we're going to roll a tiny bit because we have the gold for it, for example. Take the Flare, freeze, and we're just going to leave it like this. This is the value of Cloud Vials and why I take it a lot over the 2 free rerolls that you get. Because short term, it gives you much more value and much more control in your run. And if you're doing Endless, you're going to have a way of getting a bunch of free rerolls anyway via witch potions and stuff for Potion Belt. So Cloud Vials is a lot more powerful in my opinion. Now that we have Double Flare though, we are ramping up our burn much faster. But we still need to think about the late game, so we still need to find our Fire Orb to get this ramping up a lot more. So we can take our Flare now, take our chest. We don't really want anything from this. I'm going to take the most expensive and sell it. Even though Warbinder would synergize nicely with the Blazing Ball, I'm not going to pick it up. So the way that I play burn is I find one burn target, the thing that I want to juice up the most with like Fire Orb and stuff, and that becomes like my sole attention and carry for the build. Every other item slot will then come into a way to affect whatever item that is that I'm buffing. So there'll be a Fire Orb here, since we're using the bow. There'll be a Fire Orb here to buff up the bow. There'll be a Dragon's Call up here, for example, to trigger the bow. And then there'll be a launch down here to trigger the bow. And then we'll have like Staff of Zeus, for example, to make the burn faster. Like, these are the things I'm looking for now. There are pivot options where if I say find the fire orb, but I don't find the core and the launcher, I can like time pendant and do other things to try and speed it up too. But that's why I'm not picking up the blazing bull. If I found the blazing bull before I found the bow, then I would do the same thing. Apart from I would use like multicast items above and below to speed up the blazing bull instead. It is fine to have multiple burn items, but it just means that's more resources you're trying to split between the two to make them effective, because then you'll need to cool down both of them, etc. and stuff like that. Meanwhile, if I find a Dreamcatcher, I could just Dreamcatcher onto Molten Bow. So here we have items on sale or Time Tonic. Time Tonic is fine. It just can reduce a cooldown or something by 0.5, which is pretty powerful. Time Pendant is also fine to speed up the Molten Bow or the Flare, for example, but I much prefer items on sale. Just getting key items at half price is hard to pass up. Take the Staff of Zeus, really want to level, and then we'll just go. It's really important that you try to keep your level at least one below or equal to the day number. You might lose some rounds because of it, but it will help you scale a lot more throughout the run. So there's our Fire Orb and our Staff of Zeus. So now we're going to drop below the day number, unfortunately, but we do get scaling with this. We could technically sell out of the Flare now to pick up the Staff of Zeus pairing. I'm not going to pick up Doom Guide. Doom Guide would win us rounds by just blowing up the enemy after the 18 seconds. But I'd much rather use that time to get an extra trigger from the Fire Orb, for example. So I'm going to take the Doom Guide just to sell it. We can't level. We are a little bit short, but we do have free rerolls still, and our epic odds are pretty good. But we want to find the Molten Bow, and our Molten Bow odds right now at 30%. So I want to roll a little bit to try and find some more. We do find Launcher, which is pretty important for Molten Bow as well. So we'll pick that up and just go. Launcher acts as a way of just forcing Molten Bow to trigger, so we can ramp up that burn faster. You can see now the power of the Staff of Zeus, just speeding up that burn DPS. Take our Vitality. Level first. There's the Molten Bow on sale. I'm not going to slot it, because if I do this, for example, this is the better bow, this is the weaker bow. Our launcher now has a chance to hit one of these. We don't want it to hit one of these. We want each trigger to hit this bow. So we're just going to put this one here. Don't need to upgrade the launcher. This isn't a build that cares about the physical DPS of an item. Oh, we're going to get blown up here. That's unfortunate. We can upgrade Epic here, though. So using the events that can allow you to upgrade an item is a lot of value when you upgrade your bow. Because it's gaining one more burn, but also an extra multicast. We're level 7, we're rarity odd capped now, so let's find ourselves the items we want. There we go, we want both of these, so we're going to freeze for it. Gonna get some witch build, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. We should actually win here, because he hasn't got his wand ramped up, so... The extra multicast coming in big and strong. Both of them are on sale, this is why I like items on sale. Now we have our tier 2 bow. And we get our Dragon's Call. We're pretty much set now, so we want to put this down here like this, in this sort of lineup. So that way we can put the Dragon's Call here. That way, so I've never explained this in a video, but I probably should. There is projectile travel time in this game. So bows are very fast, and it won't really make a difference most of the time if something is back here or over here. But if you have all these trigger at once, and the enemy has something similar, and they all trigger at once, but his are positioned at the front of the tower, whilst yours are at the back, his will hit first, and it's more likely that you'll lose by like 1 or 2 health. By having it like this, you're eliminating that possibility. Plus, obviously, you got the Fire Orb here, where you kind of have to have a bow in the front. But since this is going to trigger more than the Dragon's Call would, I want these arrows to be hitting sooner. I could put the Dragon's Call up here, but eventually we want to find a Time Pendant and put the Time Pendant above it, so that way we can activate this sooner, because this is going to activate the launcher, which will then activate the Molten Bow. This will also activate the Call, and these will like function off of each other to keep activating the bow. And this will just turret like crazy until this is out of charges, and then each launcher trigger will affect the bow. We can take the Goblet, because it's on sale as well, and we'll just go. So like here, for example, you can see it just turrets out the Molten Bow like crazy. We get a lot of burn value. It just burns down the health bar. This is like what I would consider, quote-unquote, a main line. You have to be flexible, though, and be willing to like pivot out and make other options if these don't show up, which I will cover at the end, of course. Benediction. We'll take another goblet. See, we could level here just to get our health up a bit more, but our rarity odds will not change, and it will give us a little bit more income. We are pretty strong, so we're going to do that. It gives us 20,000 health, which is a lot more room to work with. We have our guaranteed lucky rolls here. Unfortunate. In a essence shop like this, in this sort of lineup, what we would want to find is something like a frost essence, because then we could frost essence onto the fire orb or the launcher, and have frost orb activate one of these things, like one of these three things, basically, more frequently for us. Personally, I much prefer to do it on the launcher, because if you upgrade the launcher, you don't need to upgrade the launcher, but if you do ever upgrade the launcher, it increases the trigger count, which means this will trigger more frequently by having frost orb on this. But things like Holy Essence, for example, if you had a 2-star Fire Orb, you could Holy Essence the Fire Orb and then Fire Essence the Holy Sigil, and they will infinitely loop on each other and give you incredible burn value. But outside of that, none of these others really do much for us outside of Moon Essence giving us multicast and Fire Orb. Starlight Potion's too expensive for us now. I don't really care all that much for it. Do this just to buy this, that way we don't have to freeze the shop. We'll just go. It's going to be quite hard to compete with us now. They kind of have to be faster than us to really deal with this amount of burn. Let's roll a little bit. We're really just looking for Time Pendant. Basically, Time Pendant will slap up here. It's a Dream Catcher. It's a bit late for you, sir. Fire Orb is fine. So the later the run goes, the faster we're killing, the less likely this is to trigger. So because we've got this combo now, really we shouldn't focus too much on the Fire Orb, because this isn't going to get to trigger that much. Really, what you'd end up doing in the late game is replacing your Fire Orb with a Night Quill. So that way, instead of having to wait for this to trigger, you take advantage of the start of combat effect of the Molten Bow instead. So that way you get +4 burn from the start of combat, instead of having to wait for this to trigger and the start of combat to go. That is nice to see. We'll do this. That is a lot of DPS increase. We can roll a couple of times. Okay, we do not see a Time Pendant. We'll just go. Yeah, so you would run this, for example, trigger your start of combat effect in extra time, which will then trigger your Molten Bow's start of combat game +2 burn. And it will technically ramp you faster, because this is very unlikely to get multiple triggers in short fights. So, for example, we only got 2 triggers here, and this is against a build that has a Protector and Shielding. If this is against a build that didn't have a way to slow us down, it would barely make it to 2 triggers. So let's go into collection and talk about some things with burn. So burn is super powerful. It's probably, in my opinion, the strongest early and mid game build in the game. Like, this is going to kill enemies the fastest and most consistently. Really, to boil it down, the earlier you find a Fire Orb, the earlier you win, because you can literally just, say you find a Fire Orb on day 3 or 4, you can literally just have Fire Orb on your board, have any burn item getting buffed by the Fire Orb, and then just level. You can just have this plus any of these items, like one of these items on it, apart from the Doom Guide, because you need to be a 2-star Fire Orb for it to really be good on Doom Guide, because then it also triggers the item. But really, Fire Orb is the main engine piece for all burn builds, because it's the scaling factor of the build. So you get this on the board, any burn item, let the burn keep ramping up, and just level every single day, and eventually you'll make it to like day 8, you'll be like, well, say you'll make it to day 7, you'll be like level 8, you'll have so much health that enemies can't kill you, and you're always going to outramp them. If you're in the Discord, you've probably seen me too, like, posting screenshots of just these 2 items together, for example, because obviously they work very well in tandem. But in terms of main lines, early game, you really want to be looking for your, like, 15 costs for your tempo swing, so that way you combine it on day 3 and 4. I can do a guide covering openers in the future if need be, but in the sense, day 1, you buy as many 15 costs as possible, trying to prioritize ones that, like, will pair themselves, so, like, 2 bone clubs, for example, etc., or 2 novice blades, or 2 regular bows, and stuff like that. Day 2, you level up, and if you have gold left over, you try and pick up another 15 cost. And then day 3, you level up again, and if there's one of your pairings in the shop, you take it and pair off, and you get a day 3 epic. If not, then you wait for day 4, and then you use that gold to, like, pair off your epic, pair off your 15 costs, to combine them together to get a very, very early on epic chest to try to get some sort of direction in a build or have an early epic item that can just carry you once you level up a lot. If you could do that and it hits a fire orb, then you're in a very, very good spot. If not, then it's basically the other opening lines are stuff like you saw in this game where we had Molten Bow plus Flare, where it can kind of carry you for a long time by itself. You could have things like 2 wildfires on your board if you have the Scorch perk, for example, plus a Flare, which will then ramp it up and give you a lot of burn value. Staff of Zeus by itself is really bad. You're basically just doing that for the shock damage at that point. Staff of Zeus is really bad for your build until you can guarantee that your burn sticks to the tower. If your burn is constantly falling off the tower and then you put in a Staff of Zeus, this is gaining no value. Because speeding up something that's not being able to stay on the tower is just making it harder for it to stay on the tower, not increasing your DPS. But in terms of early game, you would go, say, 2 wildfires plus flare, or molten bow plus flare. If you have one of these combos on, then you're pretty solid to just level a little bit, whilst you passively win just by outliving and then outramping your opponent. Into the mid game, you're looking for your fire orb to pair off with, say, a molten bow, or a blazing ball, or a fire mace, or something like this. This is how I like to play it, instead of having, say, both the fire mace and the blazing ball. They're then competing with each other. Yes, you're ramping up the burn faster on the tower, but you're slowing down your scaling because you're killing enemies faster and splitting how much like target priority your fire orb should have. I much prefer to have like a single big burn item and put all the fire orb stacks into that, and have, if fights take a tiny bit longer, that's fine because I'm getting more value out of the fire orb, making the item better, you know? It's kind of like a win-win situation. Meanwhile, if I have, say, a fire mace, fiery war axe, a molten bow, and a blazing ball on the board, sure, I'm applying a lot of burn in that moment, but as we get to the later rounds, because we've sped up through the early game and haven't really scaled any of these items up at all, we're just going to get rolled over because we can't ramp up our burn anymore. So that's why I go fire orb into one of these instead of all of these. It is fine, in my opinion, in like the mid game to, say, fire orb onto a molten bow and then put in a blazing ball just like in the corner passively, because it is a little bit of shielding, you know? Like, you're gonna put up a lot of burn through the molten bow, and then this thing's gonna like do that burn number as a shield, so it's fine. Or vice versa with an axe as a way of just quickly bonking down an enemy if you're desperate. But in the mid game, preferably you'll have fire orb plus either a fire mace or a molten bow or a blazing ball. And then the late game, you're kind of having the same board. You'll have your fire orb with molten bow, or a fire orb with the blazing ball, or even a fire orb onto a fiery war axe is very, very good. Now, in terms of the supporting items and the items to look for, you'll have your fire orb combo on with whatever item of choice you have on your board, but then you want to be finding your Staff of Zeus, because as you're applying big burn, Staff of Zeus is going to increase the burn rate, so as that burn is on the tower, it'll start ticking faster and faster and faster, and this is where the big damage actually comes from burn, is by applying a lot of it, and then having it speed up the rate in which it burns down the enemy. The Molten Bow combo plus Staff of Zeus is incredibly powerful once you've got like your speed up items to make this put the burn on the tower very, very fast. Like, this is incredibly high DPS. I don't think it needs a nerf because of how item combo synergistic it is, but it is stupidly powerful to the point where it might need addressing in some way. I'm not quite sure what the fix would be. That's something that more direct like testing would have to be involved to really differentiate that, because once it's online, it's kind of the only way you really beat it is just Protector, which is unfortunate. But yep, so this is like the main supporting item. The other supporting items, if you're doing the Molten Bow version like you saw in this run, would be your launcher and your Dragon's Call. The Dragon's Call will trigger all your bows if you have no other like bow of the same name on the board. So you can't have 2 molten bows on the board, for example. You have to have 1 molten bow plus Dragon's Call plus like 1 launcher and no other launcher, etc, etc. It'll trigger them twice, which is very powerful because obviously it'll trigger your molten bow twice, applying that burn twice. And how much molten cast this has on it, well, it's doing that more frequently too, so it goes kind of crazy. But you pair that with the launcher, and now like I said in the run, the launcher is going to trigger the Dragon's Call. The Dragon's Call is then going to trigger the launcher. They're both also going to be triggering the Molten Bow, and you get this feedback loop of just turreting a lot of burn really, really fast. It has been nerfed once, well, twice, I think 3 times actually, on the Dragon's Call directly, and then a little bit on the launcher to slow down the combo. But as you saw, it doesn't really matter. If you could just get like a time pendant or something above it, it still goes crazy. But yeah, these two feedback loop into each other to then trigger your Molten Bow a bunch, which then stacks up your burn very, very, very fast and makes your Staff of Zeus go absolutely crazy. In the late game, you didn't see me do it because I didn't get to that point, but basically Fire Orb loses value on the Molten Bow because it won't get a chance to trigger. So instead, you want to drop the Fire Orb, which is scaling your burn, to replace it with Knight's Quill, which triggers your starter combat effects in extra time. The reason you do this is because as enemies are increasing their health via leveling, if you're losing rounds, like just barely losing rounds, like you get one shot with like a Dark Orb or something like that in the extreme early part, in the mid game of the run, etc., or in the day 11, 12 area, then you will be stretching into the late days where people have taken that potion of the extra 15,000 health, and you might need a little bit more damage, but Fire Orb isn't getting a chance to trigger. That's where Nightquill comes in, because its combat effects trigger an extra time onto Molten Bow, which has 2-star permanently gain +2 burn. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're gaining +4 burn at the start of every combat, then suddenly this is going to apply a lot of burn for you. Like, it's easy to get Molten Bow's burn number into triple digits via doing this, and as you star up the Nightquill, you can see it does it extra times, so it becomes very, very potent, very, very valuable, very, very nice as soon as you get this to 2-star. Like, honestly, as soon as you get this to 2-star, you could just drop the Fire Orb altogether and just go straight into the Nightquill combo and get it going that way. Molten Bow being a rare is a very good target for the encounters that let you upgrade items. So Enchanter, for example, lets you upgrade a rare, and then Alderos lets you upgrade an epic. It just lets you scale this up much, much faster, so it's very, very efficient to do so. If you're doing, say, the Blazing Bull version, then that means early on, if you find your Fire Orb and Blazing Bull combo, say like day 4, day 5, then you want to try and find it some Dreamcatcher, because you want to speed up the Blazing Bull. You need to get the cooldown down, because it is only 3.6, and in the late portion of the run, say day of 10 plus, this being a slow cooldown becomes very evidential to why you're losing rounds. Having this being very, very fast, and pairing it off with, say, a Nature's Call and a Lost Fragment afterwards, having it multicast with a Fire Orb going a bunch as well. That's the way I like to play the Blazing Bull build, is basically Fire Orb, Blazing Bull, and then much like the Redemption build in Holy, Nature's Call above the Fire Orb, or a Time Pendant above the Fire Orb with Lost Fragments below both of them, and then a Nature's Call above the Blazing Bull. The reason I do a Time Pendant above the Fire Orb is because if you ever get Fire Orb above to 2-star, it starts triggering the item to the right of it as well. So it becomes a lot like a Holy Sigil in the sense that you're using it to trigger your Blazing Bull, which has multicasts on it. So it will trigger itself with the multicast, then it will get triggered by the Fire Orb with the multicasts, and it will start infinitely casting, stacking up that burn very, very fast, and having its burn scale via the Fire Orb. And if you ever get Blazing Bull to 2-star, you can see it starts getting twice the amount of shield and applying extra burn. And then if you ever 3-star it, it kind of gets crazy because it starts gaining permanent value of that shield from the burn, which is incredible for, say, Endless. Even though I don't really play Endless, Blazing Bull is a great contender for Endless if you can't use stuff like Dusk Shield, etc. That's the main line. If you want to go an aggressive route, instead of using Blazing Bull, you could replace it with a Fiery War Axe, do the exact same thing I just mentioned with using the Fire Orb plus the Nature's Call and the Lost Fragments and the Time Pendant combo here. The benefit you do have is Fiery War Axe is a little faster, like 0.7 faster, which is kind of crazy. And it starts ramping up its damage. Now, the benefit of Fiery War Axe is you don't need to get it to 3-star for it to go absolutely crazy. It's already crazy at its base value, as long as you can apply a lot of burn. But if you get it to, say, 1-star, it doubles how much damage it gets from that burn. But then you get it to 2-star, and then it becomes permanent gain that much burn, that much damage is burn. Oh, sorry, that much burn is damage. And if you ever get it a 3-star, you gain double that. Like, the 2-star version, in my opinion, is already crazy. You never need to actually 3-star this. If you do, then it's like, you're just winning more. You're already winning if you have a 2-star. Doom Guide is a very real consideration, but I'll only ever do this version if you get an early 2-star Fire Orb. And that is basically because this can trigger flame items, and Doom Guide is a flame item. Obviously, you can just do big nuke. That's not a burn build though. That's just a big nuke build. You give this a bunch of multicast. You make this trigger more frequently, and then this thing will just turret out a bunch of Doom Guides. The easiest way to do that is Pandora's Box. It's kind of OP. You get this early, make some slots on the board where it's Pandora's, start making copies of your Fire Orb and your Doom Guide, and then this thing is going to trigger this thing a bunch. And at 2-star, it starts applying a lot of burn. But it's not the burn that kills people with this setup. Anyway, I hope that made sense. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.